The most dangerous conversation you have each day is the one you have with yourself. Before the world speaks to you, your mind already whispers hundreds of words, and those words, your first thoughts of the morning, decide whether you rise with strength or sink into weakness. Think about it. Before you even step out of bed, you've already built the foundation of your day through your self-talk. Most people underestimate this. They allow their minds to wander into doubt, regret, and fear before the sun even rises. The first truth is simple yet deeply powerful. You are the master of your mind. Every morning, before the noise of the world begins to pull you in every direction, there's a silent moment, a few breaths between sleep and awakening, where your first thoughts emerge. Those first thoughts are not random. They are patterns, habits of the mind that have been built over years. Some of them lift you, and some quietly drain your energy before the day even begins. In that space, you must remind yourself that your thoughts are not commands. They are simply clouds passing through the sky of your awareness. Most people live as if their thoughts are their identity. They believe that if a negative thought arises, it defines them. But you are not the storm, you are the sky behind it. When you recognize this, an incredible shift happens. You stop being a prisoner of your thoughts and begin to see yourself as their observer. The mind becomes something you can guide, train, and shape, not something that controls you. This awareness is the foundation of self-mastery. It allows you to act from clarity instead of reaction. Each morning, take a moment of silence and simply watch what appears in your mind. Perhaps you feel anxiety, or maybe your mind starts listing all the tasks waiting for you. Don't fight it, observe it. When you remind yourself that your mind is your greatest ally, you transform the relationship you have with it. You no longer fear your thoughts, you begin to guide them. A master doesn't silence the mind, he teaches it to obey. Think of your mind as a river. If you let it run wild, it can flood and destroy. But if you build channels and guide its flow, it becomes a source of life and creation. Every morning when you wake up and tell yourself, I am the master of my mind, you're building those channels, you're shaping the energy that will carry you through the day. When you let your thoughts run unchecked, they drag you into worry, self-doubt, and distraction. But when you begin the day by reminding yourself that you control the flow, you walk with purpose. The mind is always looking for something to focus on. If you don't direct it, it will find something to attach to. A worry, a regret, a fear. That's why this moment of awareness in the morning is so important. It's not about repeating positive phrases without feeling. It's about creating alignment between your thoughts and your intention. When you set this tone early, your mind learns to serve you, not sabotage you. There will be mornings when the mind resists, when you wake up feeling heavy or uninspired. That's natural. The mind is conditioned by years of repetition, by the stories you've told yourself, by experiences that left a mark. You cannot silence those voices overnight, but you can weaken their hold every single day. Each time you consciously redirect a thought, each time you pause before reacting, or remind yourself that you are in control, you're strengthening your inner authority. It's like training a wild horse. At first it fights and resists, but with patience, consistency, and calmness, it learns to trust your direction. When you look at people who move through life with confidence and clarity, it's not because they never experience doubt, it's because they've learned to separate what their mind says from what is true. They've trained themselves to witness their thoughts without losing themselves in them. This practice creates an inner stillness that no chaos can shake. The storms outside don't matter when you've mastered the weather within. The practice of mastering your mind also requires awareness of the words you speak to yourself. The mind listens closely to the language you use. If you constantly say, I can't, or I always fail, or this is too hard, your mind begins to build your reality around those beliefs. But if you begin your day with words like I can, I will, I am capable, your mind adjusts its frequency to match that energy. It's not magic, it's alignment. Your internal dialogue becomes the seed from which your external actions grow. Try observing how one thought can change your entire physical state. A single negative thought can tighten your chest, shorten your breath, and drain your energy. A single empowering thought can open your posture, deepen your breathing, and restore calm. This is the silent power your mind holds. The body obeys the mind. Your reality follows your focus. When you learn to master your thoughts, you begin to master your energy. And that energy determines how you show up in the world. Self-mastery doesn't mean suppressing negative thoughts. It means understanding them. Every thought carries a message. Fear asks for preparation. Anger asks for boundaries. Sadness asks for release. But once the message is received, you don't need to dwell there. Let the thought move on. You remain still, grounded in awareness. That's the art of mental mastery. To listen without attachment, to guide without force, to remain calm while the mind does its dance. So each morning, as the first light touches your face, remember this. Your mind is your servant, not your ruler. The moment you open your eyes, you have a choice: to drift with the current of random thought or to steer it with intention. The quality of your day will depend on this single choice. When you take command of your mind, you take command of your life. Everything else, focus, peace, confidence, resilience, begins there. This simple realization repeated every morning becomes your quiet strength. Over time, it shapes your behavior, your presence, your destiny. The more you practice this awareness, the more you realize that true power has nothing to do with controlling the outside world. It comes from mastering the world within. Every sunrise is a quiet reminder that life is offering you a fresh beginning. When you open your eyes each morning, the world has already forgiven yesterday. The sky is new, the air is new, and yet, most people wake up still carrying the weight of the past. They replay old mistakes, painful memories, or unfulfilled expectations. They allow what has already ended to shape what has just begun. But every day truly is a chance to begin again. Not just in theory but in practice. Each morning gives you permission to reset your direction, to rewrite the story, to take another step forward, no matter how heavy yesterday was. When you start your day with the awareness that today is a new beginning, you release yourself from the chains of repetition. The mind loves patterns. It finds comfort in the familiar, even when the familiar causes pain. But you are not bound to yesterday's thoughts or yesterday's identity. The person who fell, failed, or doubted yesterday does not have to wake up with you today. The beauty of the morning is that it does not ask who you were. It only asks who you are willing to become now. Too often, people live as if the past is an unchangeable weight tied to their future. They say, "This is just who I am," or "I've always been this way." But that is an illusion. The truth is that you are a living process, not a fixed being. You evolve with every decision, every new breath, every act of awareness. The past is a lesson, not a sentence. When you wake up, you can choose to carry it as wisdom, not as burden. You can look at yesterday not as something that defines you, but as something that refined you. There's great strength in understanding that every morning gives you another chance to realign your path. Even if the previous day was filled with mistakes, pain, or disappointment, those moments were not wasted. They were teachers. Each experience, pleasant or painful, has left a trace of knowledge within you. But for that knowledge to become wisdom, you must stop holding on to regret. Regret is like trying to drive while staring only in the rearview mirror. You cannot move forward if your eyes are fixed on what's behind. The moment you say, "Today is a new beginning," you turn your gaze toward the road ahead. It's easy to wake up and let the same worries rush back in. The unpaid bills, the arguments, the unfinished goals. But the purpose of the morning is not to remind you of what's missing. It's to remind you of what's possible. The light doesn't ask for permission to rise, it simply rises. And so should you. No matter how dark the night was, the morning always finds its way through. That's not just poetry, it's truth. Nature itself is teaching you renewal every day. There is a deep power in starting again consciously. It means forgiving yourself, not as a way of ignoring your past, but as a way of honoring your growth. Tell yourself each morning, I release what no longer serves me. I am ready to begin again. These words carry energy. When spoken with intention, they dissolve the invisible tension that ties you to yesterday's version of yourself. Think about the way children live. They fall, they fail, they cry, but moments later they laugh and start playing again. They have not yet learned to live trapped in the past. That's why their energy feels so pure and alive. Somewhere along the way, adults forget that skill. They learn to hold grudges, to punish themselves, to fear failure, but every morning gives you the chance to return to that childlike freedom, to approach life with fresh eyes, with curiosity, with lightness. You may not be able to erase what happened yesterday, but you can transform the meaning of it. What once felt like a mistake can become a message. What once felt like a loss can become a lesson. The difference lies in how you choose to see it. The past cannot be undone, but it can be rewritten in your perception. Every morning, when you remind yourself that today is a new beginning, you are rewriting your relationship with time itself. You are declaring that the past is a teacher, not a master. There is a quiet discipline in beginning. Again, it's not always dramatic or easy. Sometimes it simply means choosing patience instead of frustration, gratitude instead of complaint, or effort instead of avoidance. Beginning again can mean starting the same routine, but with a different attitude. It can mean showing up to the same life, but with renewed awareness. The outer world might look the same, but the inner world begins to change, and that inner change is what transforms everything else. Each sunrise is proof that endings are not the opposite of beginnings. They are the foundation of them. What ended yesterday creates space for what can start today. You don't need to rush. You don't need to have it all figured out. You only need to take the next breath with intention, the next step with faith, the next thought with awareness. That is what it means to begin again. Remember that no moment is wasted when you choose to start anew. Even the hardest experiences contain seeds of wisdom waiting to be planted in tomorrow's soil. When you carry this understanding into your mornings, your life begins to soften. The pressure to be perfect disappears, replaced by the peace of progress. You begin to trust the rhythm of life, the rise and fall, the light and shadow, the past and present. So when you wake tomorrow, don't rush into the noise. Don't let yesterday dictate your first thought. Sit for a moment, breathe deeply, and tell yourself, today is a new beginning. Say it until it sinks into your bones. Say it until you feel the weight lift from your chest. Say it until you believe it, because every day truly is a doorway, and it only opens for those who are brave enough to step through it. Emotions are powerful forces. They rise suddenly, like waves in the ocean, sometimes calm, sometimes wild, and often without warning. Every morning when you wake up, before the mind even forms its first clear thought, emotions begin to color your world. Some days you wake up with lightness and energy. Other days you feel the heaviness of uncertainty, sadness, or irritation. But what defines your day is not the presence of emotion. It is your relationship with it. You cannot control the wind, but you can learn how to sail. In the same way, you cannot stop emotions from arising, but you can master how to respond to them. That is the essence of inner strength. When you begin your morning by telling yourself, my emotions do not control me, you draw a line between reaction and response. Most people live on autopilot. They let their mood dictate their behavior. Anger decides their tone, fear decides their choices, sadness decides their effort. But emotions are temporary visitors. They are not your identity. They come to deliver messages, not to build homes. If you allow them to stay beyond their purpose, they begin to cloud your clarity. Imagine waking up and feeling a surge of anxiety before the day even begins. You might not know why. Maybe it's an upcoming task. Maybe it's uncertainty about the future. In that moment, you have two options. You can drown in that feeling, letting it shape your attitude, or you can take a breath and observe it. When you pause and simply witness what you feel, without judgment, you begin to reclaim your power. You realize that emotions are signals. They tell you something about your inner state, but they do not have to dictate your outer reality. This awareness creates distance, not disconnection, but perspective. It allows you to say, I am feeling anger, instead of I am angry. That small change in language changes everything. When you are angry, you become the emotion. When you are feeling anger, you are the observer of it. One identity consumes you, the other empowers you. That separation gives you space to breathe, to think, to act from consciousness rather than impulse. Every emotion carries an energy that moves through the body. Fear tightens the chest, anger heats the skin, sadness slows the breath, joy opens the heart. These sensations are natural responses to life's flow. The problem begins when we attach stories to them. A single feeling of irritation becomes a story about how unfair life is. A brief moment of fear turns into a story of helplessness. These stories give emotion power beyond its purpose. But when you simply allow the emotion to exist, to rise, to be felt, and then to pass, it loses its control over you. You begin to feel emotions fully, but they no longer decide your direction. Mastering your emotions does not mean suppressing them. Suppression only buries energy deeper into the body, where it eventually reappears as frustration or fatigue. True mastery means allowing emotions to move freely through you, without letting them linger or lead. Like waves crashing and receding, they come, they teach, and they go. Each morning, you can practice this by checking in with yourself before the day begins. Ask, what am I feeling right now? Where do I feel it in my body? What is it trying to tell me? Awareness transforms emotion into wisdom. There will be days when emotions are overwhelming, when the mind feels stormy and the heart unsettled. In such moments, return to your breath. The breath is the bridge between the body and the mind. When emotions run high, the breath becomes shallow and quick. By slowing it down, by breathing deeply and deliberately, you send a message to your nervous system that you are safe. This single act can dissolve the grip of intense emotions. You remind your body that you are in charge. It's important to remember that emotions are not enemies. They are companions on your path. Fear protects you. Anger points to your boundaries. Sadness allows healing. Joy brings expansion. Each emotion has a purpose. The goal is not to eliminate them, but to understand their language. When you begin to see emotions as teachers rather than threats, you move from chaos to balance. You stop fearing your own inner world. The morning is the best time to strengthen this relationship with emotion because it's when the mind is most quiet and impressionable. How you handle your first emotions of the day sets the tone for everything that follows. If you start by reacting, complaining, worrying, rushing, the day mirrors that energy. But if you begin by observing, by creating inner stillness, the day unfolds from that calmness. You become like a lake. No matter how many ripples appear on the surface, the depth remains still. Emotional mastery also requires honesty. You cannot control what you refuse to acknowledge. Many people avoid facing their emotions because they fear what they might find. But emotions ignored are emotions amplified. By facing them, you take away their hidden power. Each morning, as you awaken, take a few seconds to listen inwardly. Feel what is present. If there is anger, let it be seen. If there is sadness, allow it to breathe. If there is joy, let it expand. The simple act of awareness transforms emotional energy into understanding. Over time, you begin to notice that emotions no longer pull you as strongly as they once did. You might still feel irritation, but it fades faster. You might still feel fear, but it no longer paralyzes you. You might still feel sadness, but it carries a quiet wisdom instead of pain. That is the power of daily awareness. You begin to live from the center, not from the edges of your emotions. When you master your emotions, you gain a new kind of freedom. the freedom to act with clarity, to speak with balance, to live with peace. You stop being the puppet of passing moods and become the director of your own inner movie. The waves may rise, but your foundation remains unshaken. That is the strength that comes from starting each morning with the truth. Your emotions are a part of you, but they are not your master. Discipline is the quiet power that shapes greatness. Every morning the mind will offer you two choices, the path of comfort or the path of growth. One feels easy now but costs you later. The other feels difficult now but rewards you endlessly. Most people let their feelings decide for them. They wake up tired, so they skip the work. They feel uninspired, so they delay action. They feel discomfort, so they retreat to safety. But those who live with strength and clarity understand that discipline must lead and emotion must follow. When you tell yourself each morning, "I choose discipline over comfort," you are not just repeating words. You are building the foundation of freedom. Discipline is not punishment. It is the highest form of self-respect. It's the moment you say to yourself, "I am worth the effort. My dreams are worth the struggle." Comfort is tempting because it offers relief, not progress. It gives you short-term pleasure at the cost of long-term fulfillment. Discipline, on the other hand, demands effort, but it rewards you with control, stability, and pride. Every act of discipline, no matter how small, is a declaration that your purpose is stronger than your excuses. When you wake in the morning, the mind immediately searches for ease. It will whisper, "Stay in bed a little longer," or "You can start tomorrow." That voice is not your enemy, but it is not your guide. It is simply the voice of habit, a pattern designed to protect you from discomfort. Yet growth only happens in discomfort. The seed must break to grow. The muscle must strain to strengthen. The mind must challenge its limits to expand. Each morning, you have a chance to remind yourself that discomfort is not your enemy, it is your teacher. Think of every disciplined act as a small victory over the weaker self within you, the one that wants pleasure without effort, success without persistence, peace without practice. When you rise early to move your body, even when you don't feel like it, you are training your mind to obey intention, not emotion. When you choose silence over distraction, focus over laziness, patience over anger, you are mastering yourself, and mastery of the self is the rarest and most powerful form of success. There's a simple truth about discipline. It doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it always feels right afterward. The satisfaction that follows a disciplined act is different. It's not excitement, it's peace. It's the quiet knowing that you honored your potential, that you did what was necessary instead of what was easy. This feeling strengthens your character and builds your confidence. It tells your mind that you can rely on yourself, and when you can trust yourself, no challenge can truly defeat you. Discipline also requires clarity. You cannot be disciplined about everything. You must know what truly matters. Ask yourself each morning, what is essential today? What actions align with my purpose? When your priorities are clear, discipline becomes easier because it has direction. The problem isn't usually lack of motivation, it's lack of clarity. The moment you know your why, your mind finds the strength to face anyhow. Another powerful truth about discipline is that it grows through consistency, not intensity. Many people try to change everything overnight. They push hard for a few days, then collapse under the weight of exhaustion. True discipline is built slowly, through repetition, through small but steady actions that accumulate into greatness. Just as water shapes rock, not by force but by persistence, discipline shapes character through daily practice. The world around you constantly encourages ease, faster comfort, instant gratification, shortcuts to success, but all these roads lead to fragility. When life tests you, and it will, only discipline will stand firm. It is the armor of the mind. When things fall apart, discipline holds you together. It reminds you that even if motivation fades, commitment must remain. Motivation is emotional, it comes and goes. Discipline is spiritual, it endures. Every morning you must choose which voice to follow, the one that seeks comfort or the one that calls you to strength. The first voice says, I'll do it later. The second says, now. The first seeks convenience. The second seeks mastery. The first gives you rest today, but regret tomorrow. The second gives you effort today, but peace tomorrow. Every small decision you make from that moment builds momentum toward weakness or toward willpower. Even in the smallest tasks, discipline carries deep meaning. Waking up on time, keeping your promises, staying focused when others quit. These are not minor things. They are messages you send to yourself about who you are. Each time you follow through, you reinforce your identity as someone who can be trusted to do what is right, even when it's not easy. That identity becomes your strength. In every area of life, there will be mornings when your mind feels heavy, when discipline feels impossible, when your body craves ease. In those moments, remember this: discomfort is temporary, but the pride of self-control is lasting. Tell yourself that your future self is watching, that every choice today shapes who you will be tomorrow. The small act of saying yes to discipline again and again becomes the foundation of greatness, built quietly, one morning at a time. The beauty of discipline is that it eventually becomes freedom. What once felt forced becomes natural. The effort that once required willpower becomes habit. You no longer struggle to do what's right. It becomes who you are. That's the transformation discipline offers. It replaces chaos with order, weakness with strength, and hesitation with action. When you rise in the morning and remind yourself that discipline is not a burden, but a blessing, you awaken the part of you that was born to rise beyond excuses. Discipline over comfort. It is the choice that separates those who drift from those who grow. It is not made once, but every single morning, in every small decision, in every unseen moment of effort. And when you learn to make that choice consistently, you don't just shape your day, you shape your destiny. Gratitude is one of the most powerful forces that can transform the way you experience your life every morning. Before the mind rushes into worry, planning, or complaint, you have a sacred opportunity to pause and acknowledge what is already present. The world often teaches us to chase what we don't have: more success, more recognition, more comfort. But gratitude redirects the gaze. It teaches you to see abundance instead of lack, lessons instead of losses, growth instead of struggle. When you wake up and tell yourself, I already have more than enough to begin this day in peace, you shift your entire reality from scarcity to sufficiency. The act of being grateful is not simply about saying thank you. It's about recognizing that life itself is a gift. Each breath, each sunrise, each heartbeat is a reminder that you are still here, still capable of change, still part of the unfolding miracle of existence. Most people take these things for granted because they are constant, but what is constant often becomes invisible. Gratitude brings it back into focus. It pulls your attention away from what's missing and guides it toward what's meaningful. When you open your eyes in the morning, notice the light entering your room. Feel the air filling your lungs. These small, ordinary moments are the foundation of peace. You don't need grand achievements or perfect circumstances to feel grateful. You only need awareness. Gratitude is not the result of happiness. It is the cause of it. It transforms your emotional state instantly because it trains the mind to look for what is right, even when everything feels wrong. There will be mornings when gratitude doesn't come easily, when pain, loss, or uncertainty sits heavy in your heart. Those are the days when gratitude becomes even more powerful. It doesn't mean denying what hurts. It means choosing to also see what still sustains you. You can be grateful for the strength that carried you through pain, for the lesson hidden inside the struggle, for the chance to try again. Gratitude does not erase difficulty. It gives you courage to face it with clarity. When you start your day in gratitude, your perception changes. The same world that once seemed dull or heavy begins to reveal small miracles, the warmth of sunlight, the laughter of a friend, the taste of food, the sound of silence. You begin to see that peace isn't found in adding more to your life, but in appreciating what's already there. This shift brings an inner calm that no amount of wealth or recognition can provide. Gratitude opens your heart, softens your judgments, and grounds your spirit. The mind tends to focus on problems because it's wired for survival. But the practice of gratitude rewires it for awareness and presence. It teaches the mind that life is not a collection of flaws waiting to be fixed, but a flow of moments waiting to be noticed. When you wake up each morning and consciously list even 3 things you're grateful for, you begin training your brain to see light where it used to see shadow. Over time, this habit changes your inner chemistry. Anxiety decreases, perspective widens, and joy becomes your natural state. Gratitude also humbles you. It reminds you that nothing is owed, yet everything is given. The food you eat, the water you drink, the people you love. It makes you realize that life has been quietly supporting you in countless ways you often overlook. The more aware you become of this, the less you complain, and the more energy you have to create and give. A grateful person cannot simultaneously be bitter, because gratitude and resentment cannot live in the same space. One dissolves the other. To live with gratitude is to live in harmony with life. When you resist life, when you constantly wish things were different, you create suffering. But when you appreciate what is, even as you work toward what could be, you move in rhythm with reality. Gratitude is not passive acceptance, it's active awareness. It says, I see what I have, I honor it, and I will use it well. That mindset invites more opportunities, more peace, and more strength. Life tends to give more to those who appreciate what they already have. Some people wait for big moments to feel grateful, for success, love, or milestones. But true gratitude is found in the small, the quiet, the ordinary. It's in the morning light touching your skin, the taste of water after thirst, the smile of someone you care about. When you learn to find joy in simplicity, life becomes rich, no matter your circumstances. The most peaceful souls are not those who have everything, but those who see everything as enough. Start your morning by taking a slow breath and simply saying, thank you. You don't even need to know who or what you're thanking. That simple acknowledgement opens the heart. With every breath after that, you can thank life for another chance to do better, to love deeper, to see clearer. Gratitude doesn't change the outside world immediately, but it changes the inner world completely. And that in time transforms everything around you. The more you practice gratitude, the more it becomes your default state. You start responding to challenges differently. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin to ask, what can I learn from this? Gratitude turns life into a teacher instead of a punishment. It brings light to the darkest days and patience to the hardest ones. Each morning is a canvas, and gratitude is the color that brings it to life. When you choose to see your blessings first, you begin the day from a place of abundance, not lack. You stop chasing happiness because you realize it's already here, quietly woven into every moment you're given. Gratitude transforms ordinary mornings into sacred beginnings. And that simple act of awareness can change the way you live, love, and breathe for the rest of your day. Every morning, your mind wakes up before your body does. Thoughts begin to rise like waves, each one pulling you toward a direction, some toward peace, others toward worry. And in those first few minutes, you have a choice to let your thoughts control you or to guide them with awareness. This is the essence of mastering self-talk, the art of speaking to yourself in a way that strengthens, not weakens you. Most people spend their mornings listening to their minds instead of leading them. But the truth is simple. The words you whisper to yourself become the foundation of your day. When you wake up, the quality of your inner dialogue shapes the way you see everything. If your first thoughts are, oh, I'm tired, I can't handle this, life is heavy, your day begins already in defeat. But if instead you tell yourself, for I am calm, I am capable, I am here to grow, You build strength before the world even tests you. The mind believes what it hears most often. So when you choose powerful, compassionate self-talk, you're programming your consciousness to see possibilities instead of obstacles. This isn't about pretending that life is easy or ignoring pain. It's about learning to speak truth in a way that uplifts you instead of breaking you down. The mind often exaggerates fears and limits. It repeats the past like a broken record. But you can interrupt that pattern by using deliberate language, calm, clear, and grounded words that pull you back to presence. Think of your inner voice as a compass. If it points toward fear, you wander aimlessly. If it points toward faith and purpose, you find your way through any storm. Every word carries energy. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. When you say, and can't, I can't, you plant doubt. When you say, I will, you plant courage. And what you repeat every morning grows stronger roots in your subconscious. That is why beginning your day with empowering statements can shift your entire mental landscape. It's not the world that changes first, it's your perception of it. And once your perception shifts, everything else begins to follow. There's a moment, often right after you open your eyes, when your mind is quiet but impressionable, like soft soil. That's when your words have the greatest power. Instead of scrolling through noise or reacting to worries, take that moment to affirm peace, strength, and purpose. Say to yourself, today, I choose presence over pressure. I choose clarity over confusion. I choose growth over comfort. And these simple phrases are not magic, they are training. They align your thoughts with the direction you want your day to go. Consider how often we speak harshly to ourselves, over mistakes, over imperfections, over what we think we should have done differently. That inner criticism slowly drains our strength, leaving no space for confidence to grow. Yet when you begin to replace those words with patience and understanding, something shifts. You no longer battle yourself, you begin to work with yourself. The mind becomes an ally instead of an enemy. This is why morning self-talk is sacred, because it determines the tone of everything that follows. When you start from a place of compassion, you are less reactive to chaos. When you begin with courage, challenges feel lighter. When you remind yourself of your worth, you stop chasing validation. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You're simply recognizing your own inner power before the world tries to tell you otherwise. It's important to understand that powerful self-talk is not just about repeating positive words. It's about believing them through action. When you tell yourself, I am disciplined, you strengthen that belief by making small choices that reflect it, by staying focused, by keeping your promises. Words create energy, but actions give them life. The two must move together for transformation to happen. Throughout the day, the outside world will test your self-talk. There will be moments when old fears rise or frustrations surface. In those moments, pause, breathe, remind yourself that your first responsibility is not to control the situation, but to control your response. Whisper to yourself, I am still calm, I am still capable, I am still growing. That simple return to centered language keeps your energy balanced. You stop feeding chaos and start feeding clarity. The way you talk to yourself also defines how you talk to others. If your inner voice is harsh, your external words often carry that same tone. But when you treat yourself with patience and care, it naturally extends outward. You begin to communicate with more kindness, not because you're trying to please others, but because your inner state has become peaceful. Inner dialogue shapes outer reality. Always, there's a quiet strength that grows when you learn to master your words. You no longer react impulsively to every thought that enters your mind. Instead, you begin to observe it, filter it, and replace what weakens you with what strengthens you. This is real discipline, not of the body but of awareness. To wake each morning and choose your words consciously is to choose your direction consciously. It is how peace becomes a practice, not a coincidence. Imagine beginning every day as a conversation with your deeper self, a dialogue that sounds like, grateful for this new day. I trust myself to handle whatever comes. I choose to live with purpose and patience. And these are not mere affirmations. They are declarations of alignment. They remind you who you are before the world tries to make you forget. And over time, this practice becomes second nature. The mind, once filled with noise, learns to move with quiet strength. Challenges no longer shake your foundation because you've built it with words of power, patience, and faith. That is the magic of self-talk done with awareness. It shapes not only your mornings, but your entire way of being. Each word you speak inwardly is a brushstroke on the canvas of your day. Speak carelessly, and you paint chaos. Speak with purpose, and you paint peace. The choice is always yours every morning in that sacred silence between waking and acting. The way you talk to yourself becomes the way you experience life. And when your words rise from clarity, your day becomes a reflection of calm strength. Every morning gives you a new chance to begin again, not just to continue what you did yesterday, but to consciously create who you will be today. The mind often wakes up carrying the weight of yesterday's mistakes, regrets, and disappointments. But every sunrise whispers the same quiet truth: when you can start again. The person you were yesterday is gone. The only question that matters now is, who will you choose to be today? This choice, though invisible, is one of the most powerful acts of self-mastery. You can't control everything that happens around you, but you can decide how to meet it. You can choose whether to let fear dictate your behavior or to move through life with calm intention. You can choose whether to see challenges as punishment or as practice. Each morning you are not starting from the past, you are standing at the threshold of the present. That is where your true power lives, in this very moment, in this conscious decision to begin again. The problem is that most people wake up reacting instead of creating. They open their eyes and immediately step into noise, messages, memories, worries, comparisons. The past floods in and the day begins without awareness. But to live powerfully, you must pause. Take a breath before the noise enters. Feel that breath, the warmth, the life, the rhythm. That breath is your reminder that you are still here, still capable of choice. It pulls you away from autopilot and places you back into awareness. Tell yourself each morning, today is not a repetition. It is a renewal. And those words hold deep truth. Life is not meant to be lived by habit alone. Growth comes when you approach the same day with a deeper level of consciousness. The sun may rise the same way, but you are not the same person who saw it yesterday. Each experience, each challenge, each small victory has shaped you into something slightly different. Recognize that and carry it forward. Sometimes the mind will whisper, "You failed too many times, you're too late, you can't change." But that voice is not truth, it's memory. It repeats old patterns because it doesn't yet understand that every morning is a chance to rewrite the pattern. Forgiveness begins here. Not forgiveness from others, but forgiveness from yourself. You cannot step into a new day while holding on to yesterday's self-judgment. To begin again means to release, to let go of what no longer serves you, and to meet this moment with fresh energy. Think of life as a river. It keeps flowing no matter how many stones lie in its path. You may stumble, you may fall, but the current of growth continues. When you wake up each day and remind yourself that you can begin again, you step into that current willingly. You stop resisting the flow of life. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You start living now, imperfectly, courageously, fully. Every morning tell yourself, "And I am not my past. I am what I choose to create now." Those words are a declaration of freedom. They remind you that you are not bound by yesterday's limitations or by the opinions of others. You are bound only by the beliefs you choose to keep. And belief, when directed with awareness, is one of the most transformative forces in existence. The most powerful people are not those who never fall. They are those who keep getting up again and again without resentment. Each sunrise becomes an invitation to rise with them. When you adopt this mindset, you no longer fear failure, Because you understand that every ending is just another beginning in disguise, you begin to trust the process, not because it's always pleasant, but because you've learned that renewal is constant. To start each day with awareness means to meet yourself as you are. No pretending, no judgment. Simply see what's within you. The doubts, the hopes, the tiredness, the spark. Meet it all with honesty. Then, with a single deep breath, make your decision. Saying, I choose peace. I choose strength. I choose to begin again with an open heart. That moment of decision is sacred. It's where transformation begins. There's a quiet kind of courage in starting over daily. It doesn't shout or seek attention. It simply chooses to keep going. Some days this choice will feel easy. Other days it will feel heavy. But that's the nature of growth. The seed does not break through the soil without pressure. You must be willing to stay patient while your strength takes root. As you move through your day, carry this truth. The morning is not just a time, it's a mindset, it's a symbol of awakening, of light returning after darkness. You can bring that morning energy into any part of your life. Whenever you feel lost, tired, or defeated, pause and say to yourself, let this moment be my morning again. That simple phrase resets your energy and brings you back to presence. Even the smallest step, taken with awareness, carries the power of a new beginning. You don't need a perfect plan to start over. You only need willingness. Willingness to see differently, to speak differently, to live differently. And every morning gives you that chance freely, without condition. So when you rise tomorrow, don't rush. Sit for a moment in silence and let gratitude, awareness, and calm self-talk flow together. Let your first words be gentle yet firm. Today, I begin again. Stronger, clearer, and more at peace than before. Say it until you feel it, because the truth is, you are never too late, never too broken, never too far gone to begin anew. The morning always returns, and with it so do you. Oh, tomorrow morning, before you touch your phone, before you speak to anyone, before you step into the noise, speak to yourself. Tell yourself these truths, not as words of comfort, but as reminders of who you truly are, the master of your mind, the sculptor of your emotions, the guardian of your peace. Because every morning, life whispers the same invitation. So, as this reflection comes to a close, remember, every morning is not just another routine. It is a quiet invitation from life itself, an invitation to rise, to realign, and to remember your own power. The world outside may still be uncertain, challenges may still appear, but what truly defines your day is not what happens around you, it's what happens within you. When you open your eyes tomorrow, don't rush into noise. Breathe. Remind yourself of who you are becoming. Tell yourself something strong, something kind, something true. Let your first thoughts be the foundation upon which your day is built. Gratitude, calm, and clarity. Speak to yourself as someone who is worth believing in, because you are. Every sunrise is a fresh page, and the words you write upon it will echo through the rest of your day. Choose them wisely. Choose them consciously. Choose them with love. Because the most powerful things you can ever tell yourself each morning are not just words. They are the energy that shapes your reality, the guidance that steadies your spirit, and the quiet strength that reminds you, you are ready.